you see. The other thing is he said he fires the president. And so Boban sat back and said, well, wait a minute. You fired the president? You don't talk to you? He said, if the guy was effective, it wouldn't have went bankrupt.
Right.
Okay. So we need to change that. And so one of the things, the other thought that I had was when we look at it from that spiritual perspective and from the word, one of the things Paul told Timothy, and we always quote this, but it has to do with leadership. Study to show yourself approved. A workman that needs not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth, but study. Because the more you know, the more you can impart. And when you study the word, then you can impart the word. You understand what I'm saying? So that's an important factor of you growing. So when you grow, your lid grows.
That's
and
right.
It affects your organization, your church, whatever. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, that is so true. Let's go to our next one. If your team is regularly underperforming, there's a reason a coach is fired when a football team does poorly during a couple of seasons. I think that leaders in the business and nonprofit world are a little too quick to point our finger at our teams without looking at ourselves first. If you're leading a team that is regularly underperforming, and maybe you've turned over some staff and it hasn't helped, I would look inward before you take any other steps. When you, as a leader, reach a leadership lead, it has a tremendous impact on the teams you're leading. So sometimes, like that, and that leads to what you were saying. Oftentimes, whenever you have a corporate raider or a different company, I worked in a company where I came in, and what the lady did, she took over this position, and it was like business inside of business. So she went in, she fired the leader, put me in position, and then she went and fired the lead. She got some more departments. She started firing, and really wasn't so much. It was different little companies that kind of were conglomerated together. So she ended up firing all the heads of those places, and then, like you said, did training. And I had forgot what I was trying to say earlier. What I was trying to say was when I was made a North Carolina general instructor, the very first principle that they taught us, if you find out that there's gross incompetencies and all across the board in your ministry, don't keep coming at your people talking about, well, y'all gotta, how do we say it in the spiritual world? You have a spirit where you don't want to learn. I can't even think of it's an unteachable spirit. Yeah, you unteachable. Maybe it's because you haven't trained them, really trained. Put your hand down, got into it with them and trained. So one of the things that they taught us, and that was the first principle that they wanted us to learn, that whenever there's a lot of incompetency, a lot of failure, seem like people are inept, oftentimes it's because you need to increase training. You need to increase training. Whenever you see that, if people marching crazy in the choir, you're going to march over and over again. Okay, sometimes they would have them marching like little ducks or whatever. They had to start in the back and march in. I did go to one of those churches where the choir marched in. They do some smooth moves sometimes. But you had to do it over and over until you got it right. Whenever the first thing you do when you play football, you don't go out there and play on the field. I hated that. I kind of had a Allen Iverson type of mentality when I was a kid. When you said practice, who need practice? Let them practice. I don't need practice. But what it does, it actually helps people to coordinate and get in sync with you. And so definitely we want to look at that. All right, let's look at number 4. The amount of criticism you're receiving is deafening. In the life of a leader, criticism can come regularly. But if you've noticed an increase in the criticism, it is probably an indication that you've hit a lid. And this is not just criticism of you personally, but also criticism of your team, the performance of your department, etc. The customers and people you serve are a great indication of your leadership capacity. If they're satisfied, happy, you're doing okay. If they're not, you need to evaluate your lid as a leader. So if you're getting criticism, don't sit back and just take it as they're trying to put you down every chance they get. Maybe sit back first and ponder, hey, am I doing a good job? Am I doing a good job? And sometimes I haven't never told y'all this, Elder, because sometimes people kind of smell blood in the water when you're a leader. But there's 2 times in our ministry I actually probably on a Friday fired myself and criticized myself real hard. And then I came back and said, okay, new self, I'm giving you this job. I'm giving you a new job. Now you need to enact some things. And before COVID, I did that. Now I think I've been thinking about this a little bit more. I said, now I need to start over in my mind how I'm going to redo this stuff, because I remember we sat down, and this is an elder, you can testify to this if you like. I sat down and I don't know, like Pastor Lawson, you said Revelation. I said, I said, December of 2019, I said, this is what we're going to do, church. I don't know we try to put together a program of who's going to come for that year. I couldn't pick up nothing about anybody coming to our church. Absolutely nobody. So I had to ask the people, who do you want? And then they gave me a couple of names, and we didn't put anybody in place yet. But one thing God did give me, he said, I want you to buy, and I didn't do it, so I'm going to admit it. I want you to and I was going to go to Dollar Tree. I'm in trouble with Aquila. But let me say this. I was going to go somewhere, buy a lot of toilet tissue and toiletries and give them to the community. I said, we're going to do this on 2/20/20. And I didn't do it. But I was going to do that. And one of the reasons was I think the Lord was letting me know that something was coming. And what was the one thing that was missing in 2020? Well, in March of that year, toilet paper. Yeah. And so I was going to go buy antibacterial soap, toilet tissue, and other things. And I said, we're going to pack that up and we're going to give it to the neighborhood next to us. And I didn't do it. But hey, that was just that was one more time that I had a Peter scenario going on in my life. And I don't mind telling, because we all have moments of failure. We just have to overcome them. And on that note, you can be a tax-deductible sponsor to this show by calling 252-756-3137. That's 252-756-3137. And if you want to give to any show, and including this one on this line, it would be a tremendous blessing to this community. And so you can call us again at 252-756-3137. You're listening to Real Talk for Real Men, and we'll be back after this sponsorship break. Stay tuned.
Hello, Pitt County. This is Aquila speaking here. The political primary election has been set for May 17. This is to decide which candidate we will send to the general election in November to sit in office. Awesome Radio is hosting 2 nonpartisan candidate forums. These forums are free and open to the public. Thursday, April 21st from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Pitt Community College in the Goes building for all state and federal candidates with the primary to include U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, North Carolina Senate, and North Carolina House of Representatives. And Saturday, April 23rd from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at City Hall in the Greenville City Council chamber for all city council with a primary to include mayor candidates. And also Pitt County Board of Commissioners with a primary. These forums are designed for the people of Pitt County to get to know the candidates who are racing to be our next elected representatives. That's Thursday, April 21st and Saturday, April 23rd. Keep listening here to Awesome Radio for the reminders and visit our website, wbisawesomeradio.org.
We're 106.9 on your dial. Awesome Radio.
Surely in the family, God is with me. Surely in the family, God steady. Surely in the famine, God is with me.
Hey, God bless each and every one of you. We thank you for just listening to 106.9 FM, Real Talk for Real Men. And we are having a real good show. We're talking about leadership. And Pastor Lawson, you said we have some comment.
Well, I just wanted to let you know that some of our
Oh,
friends,
yeah.
Brother Jesse May and Anthony Duons, I think,
Yeah.
are listening.
Hey, God bless you, Pastor May. God bless you, Pastor Guan. It is good to have y'all riding along with us on today. So, listen, y'all, we got to increase our leadership level. Maybe sometimes it might. We'll come and talk about that in a moment. So we talked about the amount of your criticism you're receiving. Then your work life and life balance is off. When I'm working harder with fewer results and never getting ahead in my job, my family suffers, my health suffers, my state of mind suffers. When a leader is at his or her best, the balance of life is good when he or she is not in a good place. The first thing that is sacrificed often is in family, our health, and home. This is probably the best indicator of a leader who has reached his or her peak. You never see your spouse like he or she is in a place. You develop health issues, and your need of vacation is almost obsessive. So we need to make sure that we keep our life in balance. We need to keep our lives in balance. I know that this has been a testimony for me. Matter of fact, me and my wife was talking about it this morning. There was a time where my pastoral leadership actually was trying to give us. She had a resort, and she told, and I was a young man. I was probably in my early 20s, and she said, "You need to go on vacation." I didn't do it. I had 3 jobs, and I just, just how it was. I didn't do it. And finally, I think maybe one time my in-laws gave us access to, but 2 times they gave us access to their resort. But sometimes, and it was funny, my pastor had made a joke one time. She said, Tremaine love work like pigs love slop.
Oh, my.
She said, son, one time, I'm gonna be honest, and I know this is all pastoral. The co-pastor, who's the pastor of the church now, one time told me, I hear God saying that you need to. She said, "Man of God, you need to. I want you to go home and stay in your bed 24 hours." Oh, that was the worst thing in the whole world to me at that time. But I later found out my blood pressure was just going off. Now this was some years after that, but my blood pressure was going off, and that I found out before that, and I stayed in bed and I did what she said, but I was just sitting there counting every hour, and I gotta be honest, I did feel better. So thank God for pastors. But I would say this: those are 5 signs. So I'm gonna just go over the signs and I'm gonna turn it back over. Let y'all gentlemen have the floor. You can't ever seem to get ahead. Now, let me start over. 5 signs that you reached your leadership lead. Seem like you can't never get ahead. You're working hard and harder and fewer results. Your team is regularly underperforming. The amount of criticism you're receiving is deafening. Your work life balance is off. Now let's keep this in mind. Sometimes it's our spouses telling us, "Hey, we need a break," and we just kind of keep on going. So we have to be leaders in our home. And I remember one time my wife would give me so many indicators, and I thought about it. I said, "You know what? You haven't given your wife any flowers in a long time." Now that isn't for everybody. Some wives like, and I like to say, that's Lawson, I think your wife like things a little greener, such as money. Am I right? I remember one time you was telling the story. That's the only reason why I brought it up.
Yeah.
You're buying roses. She said, "How much you pay for these things?"
Yeah, that's what you always ask.
Yeah. Give me the money. And my wife probably is like that too. But Chris kind of like the flowers as well. But we have to just kind of notice. Sometimes we get ourselves back on track. I noticed that Jesus took breaks. He took breaks. One time I told my mom, I said, "Mom, how did I say?" She asked me what was I doing. I said, "I'm not doing anything. I'm just resting." She said, "No, son, resting is doing something." And I said, So I'm gonna turn it over to y'all. Let's start with you, Elder.
It's funny. You just went somewhere where I was going to go to a point. Lessons of leadership from Jesus. I think the ultimate leader. You know, there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from him as a leader. But one of the things that I thought about, I think you mentioned it earlier, and I noticed that companies do it, and it's something good to do as to understand what your customers or what other people think. You know, that's why they do surveys. You know, and like you buy something, they'll ask you, how was the service? How was this? You know what I'm saying? And that helps you. And even Jesus said, when he talked to the disciples, he wanted to know. He said, "Look, who do men say that I am?" You know, that's almost like an internal survey.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, who do men say that I am? And then he wants to know, who do you say that I am? So leaders need to have information. Information is important to help you to, you know, be more effective, create the environments for your people to grow, you know. So we have to look at the whole spectrum of things when it comes to leadership, because you're trying to move the organization to another level. You don't want your people to stay where they are. You want them to grow too. If you're about that, you know what I'm saying? Some people are about the organization growing and not the people. I think real leaders and true leaders want their people to grow too.
Absolutely. Pastor Lawson.
Well, there are a lot of things that we've said about leadership in this session, and I'm reminded of back in the '80s, the 1980s. You all may be too young to know anything about that.
Yeah.
But back in the 1980s, when Ronald Reagan was running for president, someone said that if we were to elect him president, he would be the most incompetent man to ever sit in the White House.
Say on.
Because he had no he was coming from a background of entertainment, Hollywood. Right. He was a movie star, and they said that he knew nothing about foreign affairs. They just had a whole line of criticism about both him and his wife Nancy, that they would be out of place in that position as president of the United States. After he served 2 terms, they said that he was among the greatest of all presidents that had ever sat in the White House. And so you ask yourself, how did he go from one lid to the other? Because it sounds like, at first they were putting the lid so low on him that he didn't deserve to be there. And then when he finished with the lid so high that he was among the greatest of all presidents ever. And they look back, and what they tell you is that, this guy did not have a lot of knowledge and experience about how to run a country. But he knew how to find the right people and put them around him and then let them do their thing. So he got credit for knowing how to surround himself with capable people, and also being willing to let those people use their skills and talents to help his organization or his presidential staff, his leadership for the country over those 8 years. be successful. And then there are a lot of people that still say that those were very successful years when he was in power. Now, of course, there are some that would say different. But the point is that a lot of times leadership is not always based on what you know and how well you're able to get things done, but a lot of times uh, it's based on your willingness to have the right people around you and your willingness to let them do what they do. And I've found that in the church that, the Lord has given everybody talents and resources and abilities. And you know how some preachers, they try to do all the singing, all the praying, all the preaching, all the teaching. Some preachers, some pastors make it all about them. Nobody knows how to cut grass like they know how to cut grass, so they go out and cut the grass. Nobody knows how to wash windows like they know how to wash windows. But I've learned that you have to be able to identify the abilities and the talents that God has surrounded you with, and use those resources to push your organization forward. That works in churches, but it also works in the home. Some men don't allow their wives to move forward and use the skills and the abilities that are in their life. But I think every man, if he pay attention, he'll find out that his wife has skills and abilities, know how to do things, that he will never learn how to do or
Praise him.
never be good at it. And hate to patronize, but when it comes to mine, one of the first areas is cooking.
Praise
I'll
him.
never be able to. I used
Never.
to cook. I used to cook before
What?
I got married.
Uh-huh.
I cooked all the time, but as soon as I got married, I stopped cooking because my wife was such a good cook
Yeah, and I've had a
that I
cookie.
just gave it up.
Yeah.
I stopped washing dishes too, but that's a whole different story.
Don't lose your favor in the people's sight. Listen, I want to tell a story to illustrate the law of the lid. All right. In 1937, two young brothers named Dick and Maurice opened a small drive-in restaurant in Pasadena, California, located just east of Glendale. Their tiny drive-in restaurant was a great success. And in 1940, they decided to move the operation to San Bernardino, a working-class boomtown 50 miles east of Los Angeles. Their business exploded. Annual sales reached $200,000. Man, that's a nice figure. Especially in 1937. In 1948, their intuition told them that the times were changing and that they made modifications to their restaurant business. They streamlined everything. They reduced their menu, focused on selling hamburgers. They created what they called the speedy service system, in which their kitchen became like an assembly line where each employee focused on service with speed. The brothers' goal was to fill each customer's order in 30 seconds or less, and they succeeded. By the mid-1950s, annual revenue hit $350,000. And by then, Dick and Maurice split net profits to about $100,000 each year. Who were these brothers back in those days? You could have found out by driving on a small restaurant on that corner of 14th and East Street in San Bernardino to see a neon sign that says simply McDonald's hamburgers. Dick and Maurice McDonald had hit the great American jackpot, but they never went any farther because their weak leadership put a lid on their ability to succeed. Now, I'm not going to say that their leadership was weak myself, but however, let's look at this next scenario. Now, I'm reading the article. The McDonald brothers' genius was in customer service and kitchen organization. That talent led to the creation of a new system of food and beverage service. But in 1952, when they tried marketing the McDonald concept, the effort was a dismal failure. You can see that in the movie, and there's a movie made about it. The reason was simple. They lacked the leadership necessary to make a larger enterprise effective. Dick and Maurice were good single restaurant owners. They understood how to run a business, make their systems efficient, cut costs, and increase profits. They were efficient managers, but they were not leaders. Their thinking patterns clamped a lid down on what they could do and become. Well, I got it. Their leadership level was low. At the height of their success, Dick and Maurice found themselves smack dab against the law of the lid. In 1954, the brothers hooked up with a man named Ray Kroc. As soon as he visited the store, he had a vision for its potential in his mind. He could see the restaurant going nationwide in hundreds of markets. He soon struck a deal with Dick and Maurice, and in 1955, he formed McDonald's System Incorporated, later called the McDonald's Corporation. As the leadership lid in Ray Kroc's life was sky high, between 1955 and 1959, Kroc succeeded in opening 100 restaurants. 4 years. 4 years after that, there were 500 McDonald's. In 1961, for the sum of $2.7 million, Kroc bought the exclusive rights to McDonald's from the brothers, and he proceeded to turn it into the American institution and global entity that it is. I believe that success is within the reach of just everyone, but we have to increase our leadership. And let me say this: one of the places we've been watching the news, and one of the places that was hurt the most because of their McDonald's being sanctioned was Russia. We've seen how Russia attacked Ukraine, and for the first 10 days on the news, you saw over and over and over again people coming up wanted them a cheeseburger. They were perplexed, all because of that. And we have to admit that well, I had a class while I was in at ECU. It was called the McDonaldization of society, and it was talking about how McDonald's concepts increased businesses all over the world. We take those Smith and Wesson took, and I know I'm calling out, but we have to, for the sake of making sense. Let me just say this company, you will never know who I'm talking about. But their processes made things so much easier. Even the way we make machines and weapons, they have people lined up in those ways to put those weapons together. And we do it all the time, trying to make customer service number one. There's so many businesses that customer service is the prime goal. And if you don't learn how to increase your leadership, then you'll never become all that you could be. All that you could be. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of get in before we left. Using your example, I think one of the things with leadership, and when you use that McDonald's example, we got to understand it's important to know your limit.
Yeah.
And there's been many people, and I've read this before because I used to be really trying to study into management. You got to know how far you can go. There's people that have taken companies to a certain level, but they don't have the ability to take them to the next level.
Right.
So you got to know when that is, and they would sell when they got to that level.
Right.
They could start another company and bring it to that level. Right. But they didn't have the ability, and they understood that, to take it to the next level. Also, to comment on the picking the right people around you. That's one of the Jesus examples.
Right.
The first thing he did is he chose people.
That's right.
He chose men. So we got to understand, a good leader knows how to choose the right people.
That's right.
It's not necessarily you got to figure out how that works and how to choose the right people to be around you to do the jobs you need done.
And if you notice, out of the 12, you heard over and over about Peter, James, and John. And then the funny part is you hear about Judas, but Judas kept the money. Now, this is the funny part. I'm going to tell a real quick story. There's a person in business was telling the story of, he was in business. He had a guy that was stealing from him. He said, but the business was making $3 million a year. And he's a motivational speaker. He said that he fired that person, got a new person. He said for the years after that, it was $1.5 million he was making. He said he should have just gave the person a raise. Chastised him and gave him a raise. He said, so I don't know if Judas got the money back. He probably knew how to manage the money better. He probably thought he was tricking somebody, but Jesus knew what was going on. On that note, sometimes you got to be smart about the decisions you make. Sometimes you got to take a risk. And I say this, take a risk on someone that's probably failing in life in one area, but great in another. All right. So on that note, you listen to Real Talk for Real Men. I thank you for joining us. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon. You're listening to 106.9 FM on your radio.